Welcome to the Math Review. This lesson is on subtracting whole numbers from decimals. And we're going to answer each of these three examples. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we know the rules for doing so. Rule number 1, make sure you use the decimal point to line up place values. Number 2, make sure you annex zeros. Any blank place values that we see, we're going to put zeros in there as placeholders. That's what that word annex means. And rule 3, subtract each column starting from the right. Oh, one other important note. You have to make sure you know the following. All whole numbers have a decimal point to the right. So what that means is, let's take a look at example number 1. 19.395 has a decimal point in it. It's a decimal. But this number 8 here is a whole number. And with a whole number, you don't have to show the decimal point, but it is there automatically to the right. So we could put a decimal point right here. For this example here, we've got 22.901 minus 14. Again, 14 is a whole number. And since it's a whole number, the decimal point is located to the right. We can put it right there. And the last example is 183.52 minus 131. In this example, 131 is a whole number, and that means the decimal point will be right here to the right of the whole number. Now that we know exactly where our decimal points are in each of these whole numbers, now we can actually do the math. So rule number 1, we'll make sure we use the decimal point to line up our place values. Let's write the first number in. So here we have 19.395. Now we have to write in the 8. But remember, we should use the decimal point to line up our place values. So we'll put the decimal point here, and we'll write the 8 directly to the left of it. Then we'll go to step 2, which is to annex any zeros we have in any of the empty place values that are there. So I have 3 empty place values here, 1 under the 3, 1 under the 9, and 1 under the 5. So we should annex zeros in those spots. So I'll have a 0 here, under the 3, another 0 here, under the 9, and another 0 here under the 5. Then we can put our subtraction sign and a line under everything, and then we can get to work. Now this is actually pretty easy because when we're subtracting 0 from anything, nothing changes. Like in this column here. We've got 5 minus 0. That's just 5. Here we've got 9 minus 0, which is 9. Here is 3 minus 0, which is 3. We'll put a decimal point right here, directly under the decimal points in the question. 9 minus 8 is 1, and 1 minus nothing is just 1. So our final answer is 11.395, or 11 and 395 thousandths. Now let's take a look at example 2. First, we'll write our first number in. Then, we'll use our decimal point to line up our place values for the second number. We have our decimal point after the number 14, so I like to put the decimal point first. And then after that, I like to put the digits where they're supposed to go. So I'll put a 4 right here under that 2, and then this 1 will go under this 2. Now, I have 3 place values that I can annex zeros for, like it says in rule number 2. I'll put a 0 here under the 9, a 0 here under the 0, and a 0 here under the 1. Then I'll put a subtraction sign, a line under everything, and then we'll get to work. 1 minus 0 is 1. 0 minus 0 is 0. 9 minus 0 is 9. My decimal points are here, so I'll just bring that down. 2 minus 4 is a no-can-do. So we're going to have to borrow from its neighbor here, this 2. This 2 will lose 1, so this 2 will become a 1. And this 2 here will become a 12. So we've got 12 minus 4, which is 8. And 1 minus 1, which is 0. Now since the 0 is at the front of the number, we don't need to write it in, which means we're done. So our final answer is 8.901, or 8 and 901 thousandths. Now let's look at the last example. Here we've got 183.52 minus 131. So I'll write in our first number. After we write in the first number, then we can use the decimal point in the second number to help us line everything up. So I'll put the decimal point here, and then I'll write the 1 under this 3, the 3 under the 8, and then this one under this one here. Now that we have this number written in, now we can go to rule 2, which is to annex any zeros and any place values that are empty, which means that we have a 0 that we're going to put in this place value, because it's blank, and this place value here, under the 2. So let's do that. So I'll put a 0 under the 5, and a 0 under the 2. Now we can go to step 3, which is to subtract everything, and we'll start from the right. So let's put a minus sign here, then we'll put a line under everything, and then we'll get to work. So 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 0 is 5. We have our decimal points here, so I'll write a decimal point under those. I've got 3 minus 1, which is 2. 8 minus 3, which is 5. And then 1 minus 1, which is 0. But again, keep in mind that since the 0 would be at the front of the number, you don't have to write it in. And that means we're done. So our final answer is 52.52, or 52 and 52 hundredths. Thanks for watching our video on the math review. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. We might use your question in our next video. And if you found this lesson helpful, please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And it would really help if you share this and our other videos to any of your social media platforms. See you next time on the Math Review.